Hey guys, Brody here. I'm going to show you today how to make a beat from scratch with Maschine. So I'm going to make a blank slate on Maschine. Basically what this thing is a complete recording studio, looper tool, performance tool, sound design tool. I can load up drum kits on one of these groups. Basically each group has 16 potential tracks that you can fill in with whatever material you want. And right now I'm going to learn one of the Native Instruments kits from the newest expansion pack, Elastic Funk. Really cool, funky kits. They come with their own patterns to give you some inspiration to start off. So if I load up a kit, go to Browse, I'm looking at the Groups tab, so those new drum kits, and I'm just in the Elastic Funk tab over here. And I just scroll through and I hit Load. So when I click it, track is there, but I'm hearing the pattern that's made from Native Instruments with it. So if I wanted to make a new pattern, I can erase all these patterns by holding down pattern and delete, or I can go to an empty slot and make a new pattern, say 4 bars long. So now I'm going to play the track with a click track and try to do a kick drum to the best of my ability. So the second half is cooler than the first, so I can kind of nudge it over and copy and paste that second half to the beginning. Quantize it. So it pretty much has the idea in the first half of the two bars. And I can take one note that's wrong by selecting the event. If I hold down the select and engage events mode, I can nudge that over. If I read the grid, I can change the grid so that the vertical delineation to the pattern gives me the exact increment that I want to move the sound or the event by. So I had one wrong note and I wanted to move it back a 16th note. Changing the grid to step mode, I read on the page, it says this is the 16th note grid, and when I hit shift and the button number 7, it's moving the actual event backwards. So I'm going to make the pattern 2 bars, add one more note. I wanted that last note to come in there, just didn't come in right there, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. Cool. I got a clap here. I can turn the click track off now, but I just quantized that. I hit record, and then I selected the note that I played in, and I hit shift and 5. That quantized it, that syncs it to the bar, so everything's on time. The next thing I'm going to add in was the shaker that was in this group, and it's a really cool instrument because it's part of Native Instruments' actual drum synthesizers. So these aren't samples, these are being actually generated from the Maschine software itself. And all I have to do is hold it down like that, select the event, and just do the exact same thing that I did before. Quantize it, make sure it starts exactly on the 1 by nudging it over, and extending the length of the MIDI event. So I had multiple events selected, so I first want to make sure I'm not even selecting any of those notes. Basically, selecting events is like highlighting the cursor over the actual sound itself. I'm extending that shaker so that it's just pulling down the note throughout the entire 2 bars. It's just a 2-bar loop now. And I'm going to bring the volume of it down actually, so I can go to the channel strip here, lower that volume. I can tighten up those drums if I wanted to make them a little bit more punchy. Usually these drums will come in and be loaded up as what's called a one-shot. One-shot means that the sample, whatever sound is on that pad, is going to play at full volume all the way across the entire duration of the sample. But what I want is that sample to be tightened a little bit, so you hear it. So I'm really opening it up, so I can kind of get that kick tighter, go to the clap, and actually tighten that up. So all I'm really doing is I'm looking at the sound tab, that's the actual channel strip where the sampler is located, going to the plugin and viewing the second page of the sampler, which shows me the tuning. I can change the pitch of the sound or the actual amplitude. So if I wanted the sound to swell up. So basically amplitude envelopes are a curve that you can designate for a volume that basically over the course of time will hug the sound. So you tighten it, you can open it up. This works really well for synth samples and chord samples, which I think I'll do next. So I got drums now, and I'm going to go to a new group. And I've got all this other material in that group too. I might want to play with later, but I'm just going to keep it basic for that group for right now and start a new group. So I hit B, and I'm going to go actually in Browse, and I'm going to browse the one shot. So I hit the little arrow over, and I'm going to Samples. That's where the one shots are located. And I'm going to turn the encoder to one shots and chords. I'm going to go through some chords, and I can pre-hear them. I kind of think I know which chord I want. I like the Rhodes chord, so I'm just going to scroll down to a very big list. So now I got some chords for the chord mode. It's actually just a chord page. Take the D chord. It actually tells me the chord, so if I didn't know how to play keys, or I didn't know what chord it was, or I just want to start with some chords, it comes with some really awesome chords in this actual sample library. So I'm going to take that chord. All you have to do is hit browse, hit load when you find the chord that you like. Cool. So I got 3 chords here. They're all in one shot mode, which I don't want because they're going to overlap if they're playing too long. It's going to play the whole sample. So play it back again, make a new pattern. It's going to be 4 bars because it's going to be a few chords this time. Alright, quantize it. So I put it in, I hit record. Those are the chords that I like. The next sound, really. So I think I'll probably open up maybe some more drums, a couple more drums just to flesh it out. I can go into a new group and I can kind of organize everything later, but for right now, I'm just gonna leave a lot of the stuff in that original group there in case I like some of it for later. A couple drums there. You can go over to the user library and pull one quick. Really hi-hat. Quantize it. Open hi-hat on the upbeat. Actually, just put that one right there. You know what? So I got one hi-hat, and I kind of wanted to swell up a little bit more. So I open up the amplitude envelope, and pretty much it just swells up. The volume for the attack gives it a designated time for it to really just come up. Do a little mixing. When you go over to the channel strip, you actually have the volume parameter ready to be adjusted. So it just becomes a muscle memory because when you are dealing with a lot of samples in Maschine, you're really looking at the exact same thing over and over. All the sound design parameters are all the same each time. So it really can just become a muscle memory. It doesn't matter how slowly you go, as long as you don't stop. And failure is always going to happen, so just keep trucking. For this one I want to do much more riding open hi-hats. I'm going to record that in quantize it. I think I know the Maschine has some great guitar plucks located in its factory library. When you actually go to the one-shots again, and you're browsing and you're back to the sample, sometimes it's easier to get started hitting the actual sample tab and going to one-shots rather than hitting the browse button, but it is also really good practice to go ahead and do everything from the machine controller itself. Big list again, so I'm just going to scroll down to one that I think I like. Guitar. So just a cool little guitar plugin there. I can use this note repeat mode so it just plays automatically to whatever rate I designate. I can select events for that track and go ahead and change the starting and ending point of the selecting range, which is essentially like using the mouse and highlighting one note, and I can move that note around. I think what I want to do is make a sidechain compressor so that the chords duck alongside the kick, so that basically compressors allow you to raise the overall volume of the sound without raising the ultimate peak volume of those sounds. So in this case, I'm going to use a sidechain compression from the kick to trigger the chords so that the chords get ducked down whenever the kick hits. So I'm going to hit Shift and Browse and open up the internal native instruments modules, open up a compressor, and go to the second page of the compressor so that the input source is set to the kick. So now everything in that group is being fed into this compressor, and it's all going to duck down, even the guitars, even if I don't want it to. I think I'll open up an instance of Massive now, and maybe play another like loop chord. So I'm going to go back to the browse mode, and I'm going to check out the instruments tab this time, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to find a synth pad, and it's going to, the first encoder is going to tell me synth pad, and the second encoder is going to tell me dirty pad. That's the subtype. So now I've got Massive instance there. Keyboard mode by hitting Shift and Pad mode. That allows me to play it like a keyboard. In a minute, I'm going to actually show you how you can actually play one of these tracks on the keys. Whatever track you have selected basically plays out to your keyboard. Whatever keyboard it is. And I'll make a little melody here. You want to erase that with the Shift 9 button. You can always pretty much do any function that you need to do, whether it's copy, paste, clear, nudging notes left and right, all from the pads itself. The pads become a function when you hold down the Shift button. Basically initialize this Massive patch. So I'm going to duplicate it over, and right now I have the duplicate plus events mode selected, so that's going to copy the actual MIDI information from that track over to the next track. I don't want that right now, so I'm just going to clear them out. So select those events for the second track, hit Shift, F9, clear it out, open up your Massive patch. Same thing you would do with an envelope on the sampler. With Massive, you have to actually look at the screen and you can adjust the attack, the release, the effects, the oscillators. So now I got kind of a basic master track. I'm going to use that other track for now, but remembering the chords that I played earlier from the chord progression, D, C, and E flat, I can play them in and kind of have another layer to work with. Layer. Cool. Now I can do some sort of internal native instruments effects there to really make that a little bit more fresh. So I'm going to use a filter, go into the modules, and all the internal native instruments effects pop up. What I like a lot is the filter, especially if you have a modulation on it, so that the filter actually moves. What a filter is basically allowing only certain parts of the frequency to pop through. So if it's a low-pass filter, it's going to sound like it's going underwater. You're going to be able to only allow the lows to come through and cut off all the high information. If it's a high-pass filter, it may sound like it's evaporating. So you're basically cutting off all the low information. But you can make those dynamic. You can have a low-pass filter moving like this or a high-pass filter moving like that based on a rate that you set, or it can be just any random rate. It can be fast, based on hertz, but you set it in the filter, it's automatically set up with a modulation amount. Really, the more you learn about Maschine, the more the vocabulary for music production that's going to make sense to you. So I kind of have it like filters. I can put that into a delay. So all I have to really do is just go to the channel that the synth is on and go to the next tab and load up another sound. Cool. So before I run out of time, I'll show you how to get a little bit of an arrangement going on with your song that you have here so far. So what you have now is one scene. If you hit the scene button, you're looking at a stack of patterns. All you have going on is pattern 1 on each of the scenes. It should be pattern 1 on the first group. I'm going to make it on pattern 1, and I'm going to put the rest of the patterns up here out of the way, the ones that came with the factory drum kit. Basically what I'm doing right here is just a little bit of organization. You can organize the whole thing later and make it into even just one group, so it's all simplified. But I'm holding down pattern and I'm duplicating the patterns that were at the bottom up to the top, so I can have just pattern 1 across the board playing in pattern scene 1. So if I duplicate scene 1 to scene 2, I'm holding down the scene button and hitting duplicate, I can also duplicate all the patterns that I have going on in pattern 1 to pattern 2. And basically it's nice to have the patterns correspond to what scene you're in, so that you're not even looping, you're just playing a whole new pattern. If you wanted to erase parts from one pattern, you don't have to worry about it losing all that information. It's already there in the next pattern. So I think for the first scene I'll have it load up. I'll have it just play kick and chords. So I'm going to erase everything but the kick and the chords for the first pattern. So I'm just going to select the event other than the kick and hit clear and go to other part of the drums and remove that pattern. So that's the first scene. And then when I'm ready to go to the next scene, I can set it so that it will automatically jump to the next scene on the Maschine software itself, or I can set the whole range. So if you have this going all the way along, 1 through 8, you have patterns corresponding from each group, pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4, you got a whole song arrangement there. But all I have is 2 patterns just to drop into the drums at the second one. That's my quick beat on Maschine. Hope you enjoyed it.